All right, here we go. Another Square Dance Callers Talking. Tonight, I'm back in Germany. I have Walt and Juli Burr on tonight. How are you two doing?
Doing just fine, Charlie. We
Well,
we just finished the European Fall Roundup a couple days ago.
okay.
It's the first time ever we have been on stage in the same session at one of the European jamborees. I was scared to death.
But we're doing good. Thank you.
We're doing fine.
That's good. That's good. Now, where in Germany are y'all?
We're about an hour away from Munich, down in the southeast corner of Germany, in Bavaria.
Okay.
So we actually live in a little tiny farming village with only about 50 people.
Wow.
So about an hour out of the city.
We have more cows than people.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Juli, you're from Germany, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me, so born and raised there. Where were you born?
I was born on the eastern side in a city called Suhl. So I was born before the wall fell down.
Okay. Wow, that's got to be some memories there. Gosh. How about that? And now, Walt, we've talked a little bit at some conventions and all that. You're originally from the United States. Where are you from? Tell me about that.
I'm originally from just south of you in Macon, Georgia.
Macon, Georgia.
A place called Warner Robins, which is yep.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Warner Robins.
Okay.
And you had some military time?
I did. I spent 24 years in the Air Force, almost all of it overseas. Out of 24 years, I think I was in the States a grand total of about 6. I actually learned to square dance overseas here in Germany. Whoa, way back in 1976.
1976. So you started square dancing in 76 in Germany.
Yeah.
Juli, how about you? When did you start?
I was 13 when my brother went into the country scene and I went different festivals and he got started with square dancing. So I thought that's cool. So I start. And I started dancing demos before I attended a square dance class because the club we had no caller. We danced by records. So you learned the routine on the record.
Gotcha.
Well, after half a year, they said, if you want to join the club, you need to do a class. And the next possible class was 1 hour ride down the road. So I graduated in 96 from mainstream and stick with the mainstream program dancing for around 8 years before I started learning plus.
Okay. So now both of y'all are square dance callers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Walt, how long you been calling?
43 years.
43. And Juli?
23 years.
23 years. Okay. So you both got some years of calling in. Very nice. What kind of pushed you in that direction? When did you decide you wanted to start calling?
I knew I wanted to do what that guy up front was doing from the time I started lessons. I just thought that's fantastic. And fortunately, the guy that taught me, a guy named Larry Shipman, gave me some good advice. He said, dance as much as you can for 3 or 4 years and then start learning to call. Well, just about 4 years after I started dancing, the Air Force put me at Warner Robins Air Force Base, right at home. And I met up with a guy named Bob Shiver from A&S Records.
Yep, I know Bob.
Yep, and Bob was the one that actually started teaching me to call.
Okay.
So we spent lots and lots of weekends running up and down the roads in Georgia with him lecturing in my ear. So
yeah, when I started calling, however many years ago it was, 10, 11, 12 years ago, I didn't know about all the record labels. And the only thing I knew to get music from was A&S Records. And so that's how I came to know Bob, just through phone calls and emails or stuff like, but even before email. But that's where I bought everything for about 3 or 4 years. And then somebody opened my eyes to all these other websites and everything to buy music.
Yeah.
Juli, how about you? When you decide you wanted to be a caller?
I wanted to sing. I love singing. And I was interested in the puzzle solving,
Mm-hmm.
how to get the people around and bring them home again and make it interesting. So it was the combination of both. And for being blunt, I like to be on stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Yep. That's something to say right there. I mean, everybody wants to be up there. And like you, I always wanted to sing. I would love to do karaoke because I didn't start calling until about 12 years ago. And when I was dancing, and I thought, wait a minute, I can go up there and sing, because I didn't want any part of patter the first year. I was like, nope, I just want to sing some of these songs that I've got. And but then I had a couple of callers say, man, if you want to be a caller, you've got to learn patter. And so that kind of took me in that direction. So Julie, you just wanted to sing, and then you got in there with the puzzles and the figuring it out.
Yeah, the choreo is my hobby.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So Bob is one of your influences. Julie, what influences did you have for calling?
Say it again, Charlie.
Influences. Who kind of worked with her? Besides you, obviously. Oh, both of you. You said Bob. Bob was lecturing with you and all that. Bob Schreiber. And so did Julie? Did you have anybody besides Walt that was kind of giving you little pointers and this and that?
I have to say, in the beginning, I was more a lonely wolf, getting information, written stuff from here, there, and everywhere. But there was a lot of beginner callers in my area, and not really somebody very experienced, neither in calling nor in coaching new callers. So it was more a trial and error thing.
Okay.
And in 2003, GSI came to Munich, Germany. And that was my first full-time caller school. And I became friends with Kenny Reese, joined his caller school, and he was my to-go guy in the beginning. If I had questions, it was still a lot of self-learning, working through the material. And then I hooked up the Walt, and
okay,
had my private coach there.
Very nice.
Gave him all the white hair with all my silly questions I had.
That was in 2004.
I remember
2004.
I made notes on what questions to ask, and I went to Kenny Reese and said, Kenny, I have some questions. Do you have time for me? And he said, hang on, let me get some coffee, girl.
I guess, other than Bob, the biggest influences on me was probably Elmer Sheffield, because Elmer was down in Tallahassee. That's where we did all the recordings, the early recordings on ANS. He gave me a lot of good advice. In fact, I got daylight scared out of me one weekend because Bob said, come with me. I got this dance to call. It's in Tallahassee. And he said, I want you to call a tip tonight. This was one of the first times he asked me to call on a program that he was doing. And we got down there, and just as I was getting ready to call, I said, by the way, Bob, who's a club caller here? He said, oh, it's Elmer, and he just came in.
Wow.
Nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. Gave me a lot of good advice, especially about singing calls, picking music, because, of course, Elmer's an expert at it.
Right.
So, yeah, probably after Bob, probably Elmer.
Elmer, okay. Very nice. Yeah, I started with the GSI schools and all that, and I took several. Ken Ratusi, we met, and I took several of his, and then got into the GSIs. So everybody has some influences, and the one thing, and I've talked about to several people, just the callers in general. Take the dancers out of it for a minute. The callers in general. I've never met any caller that just wanted nothing to do with me. Knowing that I'm one of the newer in the Callerlab area, everybody wants to tell you, hey, try this or do that, or hey, try this little figure out, and very helpful. And so we've all had mentors, I guess would be the best word for that. So now y'all's setup is really good because you got the both of you, and now Julie, you're getting to the point where you can give some advice to even back to Walt, because you see stuff that he may not see all the time. But because you can always learn, you know, every dance that I do, I'll pick up on something, you know, that I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe I can do it a different way. I started a plus class Thursday night for my club. I've never taught plus. And so, you know, it was kind of adventure because the first thing they wanted to learn was spin chain the gears. And my first thought was, I'm not even sure if I can dance that because it rarely gets called. You will hear spin chain and exchange the gears all the time, all night long at a plus call. You'll hear that. But spin chain the gears, you just don't hear. And so I looked up the definition again. And when I looked up the definition, I'm like, yeah, I remember that. And so then we taught it. And, you know, about 20 minutes in, the class had it. I had 2 squares. And so, you know, the schools are a big part of it. Any schools stand out to y'all? You went to GSI, Julie, Walt. Did you take any schools, you know, official schools, or what'd you do?
The first school I ever went to was 1999 in Bannenberg with Al Stevens and Tony Oxendine.
Okay.
And I literally found out how much I didn't know because I've been calling for 19 years at that point. And since then, of course, I got involved with GSI in 2003 and went through their schools in 2003 and 2004. And then I started training to be an accredited coach in 2006. So I've been involved with the GSI schools ever since then. And I completely agree with you. There's not a school that I do, including the one in Mobile, that I don't see something different, something new. We had a young lady in the brand new group, the newbies group, and we were setting up a particular choreographic problem and watching how they got out of it, how they got back to a 0 line. And everybody was doing the same thing. All of a sudden, this young lady did something that was 90 degrees to everybody else and just caught me totally by surprise. That's cool. I want to remember that. I couldn't tell you right now what she did,
right?
But it was completely different. It was something I had not thought of. So every school, you learn something.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep.
Now, as far as that goes, what levels do y'all dance at, square dance wise?
Dance or call?
Well, dance.
Dance, me up through A2.
Okay. Julie?
Comfortable A1, uncomfortable A2.
All right. And where do y'all call?
A2.
Plus.
A2 plus. Okay. Very nice.
No. I drive my husband mad with basic alone. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a running gag in the clubs because every time I want to get experimental, I said, okay, Walt left the room. We can do now what I have in my head.
I will nice. Charlie. Julie is the better choreographer when it comes to being creative. All right. Okay. I'm the better showman, but she's the better choreographer.
Okay.
We had club night last night for the mainstream club, and he left the room.
Wow.
And gave all opportunity to present offset boxes in mainstream. I had to get them out before Walt came back. But
sure. Oh gosh, that's great. And so it's good that when I am not creative in that respect for choreography, I work on it. I watch a lot of YouTube stuff and I'll see things, and you know, I'll watch the Jet Roberts of the world doing stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, if I got a setup like that, I'd be like, hey, everybody just go home. There's no way I'm gonna fix this, you know. But there's ways out of it. I can't see it. So Julie, what you're doing, that's fantastic. And so you got, and then again, the best of both worlds. You got the showman and the choreographer. You couldn't ask for something better at a dance. Now, with being the choreographer, do you have a favorite call?
Dixie style.
Dixie style, okay. Walt?
That's hard to say. I do use the one that I use the spin chain to gears without exchanges pretty frequently. We have a plus club that we do every couple weeks, and I use that one. I don't know. There's just something about that one I like. I leave out the exchange, and sometimes I'll do I'll only turn the star a half or only turn the star a quarter. But I use that one a lot.
Okay, very nice. Now, being in Germany, you've both probably called in other countries and all. And Walt, you were telling me, where have you been?
Whoa, in Europe or around the world?
Just some of them that stick out to you all over.
I think probably one of the most unusual ones was we did a GSI color school in Russia. And it was the first GSI school ever in that country. And calling there was I don't want to say it was a challenge, it was fun, but it was really unusual because it was almost all women. There's very few men out there that dance. And it's at first I was uncomfortable because for a long, long time in the military, Russia was totally forbidden. After we'd been there a day or two, they were probably the most welcoming, easy to get along with people I've ever met. So Russia was probably the most unusual one. But one that really stood out was a few years ago, we got invited to call at the Japan National Convention.
Mm-hmm.
They had 2,300 dancers and a hall that would hold all of them, Charlie. And that was when they changed my time slot.
Oh yeah, that was unique.
They have a point system for their colors. You get points for this and points for this and points for this. And depending on where you're ranked, what time slots you get at convention. Well, being from outside Japan, I wasn't ranked very high. So I had, I think, 2:30 in the afternoon. And about 1 o'clock, one of the hosts came to me and said, if it's all right with you, we need to change your time slot. We have one of our callers that has to leave early today. And if you don't mind, we're going to switch you. I said, well, when is it? Now, keep in mind that at 7:30, they put everybody in one hall. And he said, well, if it's all right with you, it's 8 o'clock in the mainstream hall. I said, yeah, I could do that. So, I'll never forget standing on that stage and looking at 2,300 dancers was just incredible. So that one, that's something like that you'll never forget.
Sure.
A couple of years later, we were back out there, and they put me in the A2 hall. And we probably had, I don't know, 30 squares in the A2 hall. The thing is, Japan has a lot of female callers, but it's very, very rare for them to have a female caller from Europe or the USA. It's very rare. And they put Julie in the mainstream hall, and we overlapped by about 15 minutes. My last 15 minutes was her first 15 minutes, and she was next door. I had just started into my last tip, and my crowd vanished. I went from 30 squares to 2, and I think they told them they had to stay. And I said to the MC, what did I do? What happened? And he says, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. Your wife started up next door. That's where they went.
You pulled the crowd away. Very nice.
I'm telling you, the zip. And all I heard the rest of that weekend was, your wife has a wonderful voice. Yeah, okay. So,
oh, that's great.
Out there.
Yeah, but those kind of things like Japan and Russia, they stay with you.
Okay.
They do. So.
And Julie, is that yours? Is Japan, or you got any other stories about that?
Yeah, there was one first time calling in the Czech Republic.
Okay.
It was a Christmas dance, and we were invited by Doug Markalik to call for his club. Or better, Walt was invited. I was still in my beginning stages, and Walt doesn't like Christmas music for square dance.
I just don't.
By that point, I had more Christmas music than he had, but he was hired for the dance. And he said, okay, we should do something together. So we sat in the morning in Doug's living room and we discussed, and I said, okay, we can do Mary's Boy Child, but I don't know the lyrics by heart. And Doug popped out of the kitchen and said, I don't know the song at all, but I'm fine singing with you. And I thought, great. So here we are in the evening, my husband, Doug, me, and my husband sings along and comes into the middle break and says, sides, face, grand square, here's Julie.
I got dead silence.
And I thought, what? Okay, look. Doug was between us, looked right and left and backed out.
Yep. And then the next thing I heard was from Doug. He said, sing anything, they don't speak English.
This was the wildest version of Mary's Boy Child.
Oh, that's great. Just make up the words. Oh,
do anything.
Sing
Yeah.
something.
But we've actually got around Europe quite a bit. We did a color school and a dance in Sweden. We did a GSI school in Sweden and the UK.
I know. In the beginning, I lived in Germany and he lived in England. We
Yeah.
had a far distance relationship for 7 years. So part-wise, our monthly meeting was especially he was hired over here.
Mm-hmm.
And every time they put us in a youth hostel
Oh,
with bunk
Lord.
beds. Can you imagine being in a relationship, the only time you're meeting and you're sleeping in bunk beds?
bunk beds.
This went on so bad.
Ah,
I made the contracts for him. I said one of the deal breakers is that we are not in a youth hostel and not in bunk beds.
oh gosh, bunk beds.
He
This is
was
so bad.
hired. Well, I thought I made it pretty clear to that guy, and he was hired for a week in Austria. At this point, he borrowed my car and my Hilton, and I drove to school by bike the whole week and joined him by train on that weekend.
Right.
And there was train strike, and the weekend didn't start it very well. I finally got there, and Walt greeted me and said, I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? And I was giving me the good news. It's not bunk beds.
That's good.
Give me the bad news.
Bad news.
The beds are nailed to the wall this way.
They weren't this way. They were this way.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
We got into that room. It was a youth hostel.
Yeah.
We got the teacher's room. That's fine. We had a lot of space in front of the beds. So I decided, no. I pulled the mattresses off and I made a double bed on the floor. Called the dance, went at night to bed, and there is that big panel of lights.
Light switches. Big illuminated light switches.
In green, red, yellow, every color you can imagine.
Wow.
And it woke me up at night, so I went over there and switched everything off. I was fine, went back to bed, sleeping like a baby. Got up the next morning, caretaker comes along and says, do you know who's in this room? Yeah, us. Can you please leave the light switches on? It's the electricity for all the other rooms.
Oh yeah, they're cutting off all the electricity.
Shut everybody up.
Nobody had light or anything this morning.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, they put y'all in charge of all the power. That's fantastic.
I'm telling you. We've had some adventures traveling around Europe, calling in different places.
You know, I ask everybody, and since y'all have traveled around, are there any venues, or now 2,300 people dancing, that's something, but the actual venue itself, does any of them stand out, like floors or buildings that you were in?
Yeah, several of them. For several years, we did the, what's called the unconventional dance in Bratislava, Slovakia.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a long, narrow hall with a staircase at one end, and the stage is at the top of the staircase. So you're actually 10 or 12 feet above the floor, looking down at everybody, which wasn't bad. The other one that sticks out was at the Czech Republic Convention. And we got in there on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And my first time slot was Friday night. The mainstream hall was actually half moon shaped. It was like round on one side and straight on the other. And that round wall was all glass. So
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
that was
imagine what the
wonderful.
acoustics were like in there. That one sticks out. As far as really good, any number of them. There's a over here we use a lot of like the events rooms in guest houses, and they tend to be wood floors and wood ceilings, and it's really pretty good. But go
I
ahead,
remember one.
go ahead.
We called for a club in Passau for a while
Oh
on a
yeah,
regular base, and they were in an old castle kind,
oh
and we
yeah,
were in the former music room, so it has wonderful acoustics. You barely needed any volume on the mic or the music because it was
yeah.
wonderful acoustics. And if you looked up on the ceiling were still the paintings, what you
Mhm.
know from mid-century movies.
Yeah, it was actually designed. The hall was designed and built for like soloists and singers and musicians. That was fantastic. That one, yeah, that one stuck. That's in the
Wood floor,
yeah, that was wonderful.
really, really good.
That's nice. I knew over in Germany and all that you would have some unique places with the castles and all that stuff, because for the most part over here it's senior centers, schools, gymnasiums, different things like that. There's one in Macon that I called. I've danced a few times and I called it, and it's an old school. It was a one-room school in the 1900s. Amazing, same floor, wooden floor. It's just, and that's what gave me that idea to ask people because I just love that place. It's just outside of Macon, and they still use it as a dance hall. And
What's the name? What's the name?
I don't know the name of it. It's off of Bass Road in Macon. It's a little north of Macon, going towards it's probably 20 miles outside of Macon. Tom Wood is the caller that calls there now.
I've been there.
Have you?
Bob Shriver called a dance in there, and I was with him.
I imagine he probably did. It's really nice.
It's a one-room schoolhouse.
Mhm.
Oh, I can't think of the name. Yes, I've been there.
Yep, and it's got like the little lunchroom off to the side and the kitchen area and all that. But it was an old.
Yep.
And the thing about that is it has a stage that's about 4 foot over the floor with steps that go up. So you're looking out. For me, being 5'6" on a good day, if I go somewhere to call and I'm on the floor, I'll tell people, hey, if the number one couple has a tall man, I'm not going to see the rest of y'all. Just let y'all know that now. Yeah. So all of my get outs are going to be either from memory or from a box 1-4, and because I can put that guy back in front of me. So
Charlie, you and I are exactly the same height, so I know exactly what you mean.
So anytime somebody gives me a stage, I will take it in a second.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Gosh.
Unusual hall, or better arrangement for a club night was winter time. It was cold, and we got there carrying the equipment 2 floors up, and there's no heat.
No heat.
And I thought, what is that? So I went down 2 floors, asked the owner, and he said, well, there is a Kachelofen up there, and if you want heat, just fire it up. Wood is up there, and heat it up.
Yeah. Build a fire in the stove.
And the club officers came, the dancers came. I said, okay, guys, who is running the oven? We don't know how to run it. So in taking turns calling, we took turns heating that thing
oven. That is really good. Wow.
That was unusual.
That is a memory right there. Gosh. So you both recorded some songs for some record labels?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. I actually recorded the first singing call ever done on the ANS label.
Okay.
It was Will to Love. Was that the first one?
Yeah, I think so.
We've done a couple on ANS. We did
a couple on ANS.
Yeah.
On My Way.
Ain't No Grave.
Ain't No Grave was on ANS.
It was on ANS. Julie's done one on ESP, Heading West.
Mm-hmm.
And we got really
one on Royal.
Yeah, Julie did Hard Candy Christmas on Royal, which was, there's a whole story behind that.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, that was probably the most expensive singing call in the whole world because Tony had donated a singing call, a chance to do a singing call, to Callerlab, and they auctioned it off at Callerlab.
Okay.
And I decided, okay, I'm going to see if I can buy this thing for her. And it kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And she's over on the other side going, stop, stop. No, I'm determined I'm going to get this thing. Cost me $2,000.
Are you kidding me?
I'm dead serious.
Wow.
Some guy behind me, every time I would up it, he'd jump it again. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, but it came out good. Tony gave us some tremendous music. And then about a year and a half ago, we were really, really fortunate. We went to Wade Driver's Color School in Houston, and he asked us to join Rhythm International. So that's where we're recording now.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, I haven't taken part in a lot of the auctions, so I had no idea this past one in Mobile. One of them was a bottle of whiskey that had the Callerlab bottle that they had made for that. And Tony and I are big fans of whiskey and stuff like that. And so he came up to me and he said, what do you think about that? I said, I'd definitely go 200 for that. And he's like, okay. That started at 150, I think. And I think it finished around $4,000. And I was like, have you lost your mind? There's no way I can get that. And even if I bought it, I'd never drink it at that point.
No kidding.
So I learned a lesson. So it's not surprising you paid $2,000 to get that. It's a good song. I've listened to that one, by the way. I've heard that one. I don't think I have what it takes to actually try it at a dance that I'm doing. So it's just my vocals are not there. So by any means. So
do you like bluegrass music?
I love bluegrass.
Okay. Be on the lookout for one called Sunny Days coming out on Rhythm International.
Sunny Days, will do.
All right.
I will. So what's some of your favorite? I know you've recorded a bunch, and those are probably some of your favorites. But if you went to a club tonight and weren't expecting, they said go up there and do a singing call, what would you call something's favorites?
Oh wow. Me as an individual, I'd probably do Sweet Home Chicago.
Okay.
And that's on Newbie?
I think so.
I think it's on Newbie. I really, really like that one because the way they structured the music, you can do the music dies way down when you're actually speaking and then comes back up, and it's terrific.
Very nice.
I like that one, and probably Long Train Running on Royal. I know that's Tony's signature tune, but I really, really like that one. What's another one?
Rock This Town.
Rock This Town.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. What's some of yours?
Oh, I have several I like. So it depends on what did the caller ahead of me. Do I want to go with a slow love song or something more jazz? One what always makes the hall crave for more is Shamey Shame. I don't even know the label anymore because it's not available anymore.
Okay.
But it's about a girl who promises to get what she wants.
Okay.
One way or another.
I'll have to look see if I can find a recording somewhere. If it's not available, I've never heard of it. So that's great.
And
Hallelujah.
I do Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Okay.
For a slow one. If I want something unusual, I do Achterbahn. What's a German song by Helene Fischer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I don't think it's available. It would be on what's Tim's label?
Square Rhythmics.
Square Rhythmics.
Mm-hmm.
And he recorded it, sent me the music in the plan of that I put the voice on, and it hasn't happened so far. So I have the music. Nobody else has, but I can use a singing call.
Okay.
Together, we have several that we do. We do Wagon Wheel as a duet.
Okay, I love that song.
Yeah,
We do Engine of Love.
Engine of Love
By
as a
Sting.
duet. Do quite a bit of gospel stuff as when we're working together.
Okay.
Things like I Saw the Light,
I'll Fly Away.
I'll Fly Away,
I'll Fly Away. Love that.
Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. That's because that's really, really good music, and it works real well for a duet. So
For Zoom dances, we had at some point worked out Beauty and the Beast.
yeah, when we were
Okay.
doing Zoom dances every week.
All right. Okay.
It's a whole nother challenge.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I tried that one time, and I don't have any other equipment than what we have right. I don't have a mic or anything that I use. And I did a Zoom dance for a club, and did not go well because when I'm talking like this, you can hear me fine. When I start doing a singing call and my voice raises up and everything, it's completely distorted. The other thing, since they'd never done one before, they set up the floor beforehand and they said, "Hey, can you see this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they had 4 squares, 2 and 2. And the first little tip that I was calling, as I'm calling it, I'm watching them, and slowly they start spreading, and I can't see 2 of the couples while they're dancing. They keep coming in and out. So I had no idea who had who, and it just did not go well. I need to do some more research before I try another Zoom dance.
The trick, we did a lot of 2-couple Zoom dances.
Mhm.
And the tricky part was the lag in the internet,
Gotcha.
and made timing real tricky.
Mhm.
So, but it kept, I will say, it kept at least one of our mainstream clubs going. They're still functioning because of the Zoom dances every week. So
Wow, that's very good.
it worked out okay.
Now, about y'all, if you're not doing square dance music or anything, what kind of music do you like?
You mean there's other music?
There is.
What?
Oh, I grew up on gospel and blues and country.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
some of my favorites are probably Reba McEntire. I love her stuff.
Mhm.
Back when I was younger, it was Kathy Mattea.
Okay.
Some of of course, Willie and Waylon and all those guys. That's what I grew up with.
Okay. Julie, what do you listen to?
It depends on. Most of the time, I fall back on country.
Okay.
I love golf groups.
Garth Brooks, okay.
And I love Dolly Parton.
Oh, yeah, you can't go wrong with that. And I've tried it. I even talked about it on one of my podcasts earlier with Justin Russell. I was like, this Tennessee convention is so big. Have y'all ever been to the Tennessee State Convention?
No, we haven't. The only state convention either of us has been to was the Georgia State Convention. Because of the time of year with Julie's schedule, we can't get there.
Gotcha. And I've been to probably 8 or 9 different state conventions over the years. Tennessee is just the best. They're set up the way they have it. And I made a joke. I said, and it's pretty big. They have probably 2,000 people roughly for the thing. And that's really good for a state convention. I mean, Georgia's, you're lucky to get 300 sometimes, 400. And that's coming up week after next. I don't know what the numbers are going to be yet. But I joked, I was like, Dolly Parton, if she actually lives there in Pigeon Forge, it'd be nice if she could come over and just say, hey, for a minute. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. So, would love to actually see her in person, but I don't know. And like I said before this, when we were talking about the callers wanting to know more about you, I ask everybody, and I know y'all seen a couple of the podcasts, a little bit about y'all. Do you consider yourselves TV people or movie people when it comes to entertainment, or neither?
I don't get it.
Would we rather watch TV or see a movie? I would have to say probably more TV.
I go for movie.
She goes for the movie. Probably, I like documentaries. Okay. I watch a lot of National Geographic and history, stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff I gravitate towards.
Okay.
So TV.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter because I have the remote control.
So yeah, for me more TV. For Julie, probably more the movies.
And one thing that I've done, and it's kind of stuck now, and people talk about it to me. I compare these two, and if you haven't seen them, I understand. What is your favorite, if you have one, between the movie Footloose and Dirty Dancing?
Dirty Dancing.
Dirty
Dirty Dancing.
Dancing.
Okay, very good. And it's just I one night some of that popped up, and my favorite is I love them both for different reasons, but Footloose because that was about the time I was coming out of high school, and it's one of my favorite memories. Of course, you can't go wrong with Patrick Swayze and Dirty Dancing.
Charlie, do you know that the final song out of Dirty Dancing, I've had the time of my life, do you know that's a singing call?
I did not know that.
It sure is. I got what label?
I don't know. I have the singing call and I converted it
We'd have
from
to look.
record.
But yeah, it sure is, and it's a good one.
I'll have to go online and see if I can find it. Time of my life.
It's a booger to learn. I'm telling you that.
I imagine it is. I tried that night before last. I did a dance, and I did it. I did all Jimmy Buffett songs since he just passed away. So I had 6 singing calls that were all Jimmy Buffett, and about 3 of them I've done on a regular basis over the years. And a couple of them I just practiced the week prior just to get ready for it. And for my favorite song probably of his, Margaritaville, I just can't get it. What you were talking about with not knowing the lyrics, luckily the record labels, and I think those came off a rhythm. The music was so good when I hit the middle break, and I said side space grand square, and I just thought, I don't know what comes now. And so I just let the music play, and I know where the Alaman left comes in, and so I kind of went there. But that's one thing we have an advantage now. Some of these record labels, the music is so good, you don't have to sing some of it. Just let the music go. That's changed over the years. The early stuff, the music wasn't as good.
Yeah. One of the things that I tell particularly students in college schools, sometimes the best thing you can do is say nothing. Let them dance. If the music's that good, a classic example is the middle break in Rosalie's Boat. Don't say anything. Roll the volume up and let them dance. The thing you're talking, Margaritaville, everybody knows that music. Everybody in the world knows
That's it. You can they'll sing it for you. You don't have to sing most of the words to that.
Exactly. So sometimes we should just be quiet and let them dance.
There's one I'm trying to think of. Scott Bennett's Baker Street. The horns in that are just amazing, and you can just step back and let it play. Because people who are just enjoying music would like dancing to that just as much as trying to hear me sing those words.
Sure.
So you kind of go either way with some of that music. Now, y'all have lived in Germany for quite a while. I ask everybody if you could choose, would it be, so I get them right, beach, mountains, deserts, or plains? Where would you like to live?
Go ahead.
What is plains?
Just like flatland.
Nine.
Where would you like to live?
I would like to be at a beach with mountains in the back.
Very nice. Okay.
Probably. Well, I like where we are really well. We're not far from the mountains on the other side of Munich, but if I really had a choice, probably on the beach, on the coastline somewhere.
With sand beach, not stone beach.
Yeah, sand beach.
Sand beach. Okay. Well, I only know sand beaches. Being from here, so I don't know. Okay.
Probably on the coast somewhere.
And so it's just since you're square dance callers and you both have some years, what advice, if any, do you have for callers, whether it be somebody brand new thinking about it or somebody who's got a few years of calling? So just some advice.
Put the work in. Don't give up. Have faith in your hard work. It will pay off.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a little while, but yeah, hard work is always combined with success.
Absolutely. And if I have all set boxes, I can get out of it if I look at it long enough.
You will get
Pretty
out
much.
of it.
Okay.
I would probably say something similar to what Julie said, and don't give up. So many times in color schools, I see people that they're brand new and they get frustrated and they want to say, "Oh, the heck with it," and you don't learn to do this overnight.
No.
Well, no. And I guess the best advice I could give them is don't quit.
Mhm.
Don't give up on it. Give it a while. Um, One of the things that I think is probably the most important, especially for a new caller, is find a good mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And not every caller is a good mentor.
That's correct.
One of the most fantastic callers that ever lived was Marshall Flippo. It was wonderful, but he couldn't explain how he did it. Right? Don't get me wrong. I love Marshall dearly.
Mhm.
I would travel miles to dance to that man. And he was one of the nicest guys in the world. But if you say, Marshall, how do you do this? Oh, I just do it.
Mhm.
That was his answer. I just do it. Okay. So not everybody is a good mentor.
Yeah, it comes natural to some, but that's a very few. But they still have to work. And I go back to him all the time because one of the most creative that I know, and I know a lot of creative callers, Jet Roberts. I've
Yeah.
talked to him in depth about things, and he says, Charlie, sometimes I just see it,
Exactly.
But also, Jet will also tell me that every day he's working on choreography. To this day, he works on choreography. So even if it's an ability you have naturally, they still work. And he works is just like all the other callers that we know that continue to work at choreography. You have to. When we had this, during COVID, years back when it shut down, I don't know how much I lost. And I had very little in my head. So I can imagine some of these guys who've called for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you're going to lose some of that if you don't do it for a year. So a new person not working at it, it's going to show immediately. So yeah, both of y'all's advice on that, you just got to keep working. The only thing go ahead.
Keep at it. A good friend of ours, Kenny Reese, who was a Callerlab accredited caller coach. Kenny passed away a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and I've never forgot it, he said, you don't learn to call on stage. You learn to call sitting at your kitchen table pushing your checkers.
Yep.
And that's probably the best advice you can get. Sit down and push those checkers.
Yeah,
and never trust somebody's choreography without trying it out first.
Yep.
I know. I learned that. I've seen a few things online. I'm like, oh, that looks good, and you just walk in and try that. Not going to work out for you. The only thing I can compare it to, I listen to and follow a lot of stand-up comedians. I love comedy, and every one of those guys I've ever heard tell stories is about how bad they would bomb the first few times they went on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Telling jokes and just how they not that they would, but the crowd boos them and all that. Now, no, you're not going to go call somewhere and they're not going to boo you. Maybe not to your face. Maybe when you're gone, they might say something about you. But you're going to have bad nights. You're going to have nights where you just can't find the corner, or the music's just not right for you. And that's where a mentor, or in your case, you're both callers, but like my wife, who is not a caller, she'll go to some of my dances and I'll try something new and I'll come off the stage and I'll say, how did that sound? Because a dancer is going to tell you, oh, you're really good. I really like listening to you. But my wife will tell me, hey, that's a good song. Do that one again. Or my wife will tell me, don't ever do that song again. Throw that, as soon as we get home, just throw that memory stick away. And, and so, you need somebody to do that because you can't always hear it yourself.
That's for sure.
So yeah, you have to fall down if you're ever going to get back up and do better. So great advice on that. What do y'all have coming up? Do y'all have anything coming up? I know I'll see y'all again in Callerlab in about 6 months or so. What else do y'all have?
I mean, over here, well, let's see. We just finished Fall Roundup. We have one of our clubs has its 30th birthday dance coming up next month. And if you don't mind me doing a commercial, we are the hosts for the first Callerlab Mini Lab in Europe in over 20 years.
When is this?
17 through 20 October 2024.
October 17th.
I can even tell you who the staff is.
Okay.
You'll like this. Ted Lazat, Tony Oxendine, Jack Platties, the two of us, and at least one more accredited coach from Germany.
You have flyers or anything out for that yet?
Not yet. We're working on the registration forms and the flyers. We just had a meeting with the event manager at the hotel this past weekend, and everything just looks great. We're really, really pleased with this.
Absolutely would like to talk to you more about that. Once y'all get something set with the flyers and all that, let's absolutely do this again. I would be interested in something like that. My wife and I, we've never ventured in y'all's direction, travel wise. Well, and we've been to Japan one time to see my son because he was in the Air Force for 4 years. And he was in Misawa, northern Japan. And for about 3 of those 4 years. And so we got to go visit over there. But the other direction, the Germany's, Italy's, and over in that direction, we've never been that way. So something like that would be fantastic. And it's not hard to convince my wife to do something like that.
When did you say you're retiring?
I can go next year in July, but I'll probably finish next year. But I've got plenty of time. I can always take time off.
Well, what's the nearest airport? Frankfurt?
Frankfurt, probably.
Frankfurt's probably the nearest airport. We have a dance that's open to the public on Thursday the 17th, and that will be Tony, Ted, and Jack.
And there is plenty to do for partners if they don't sit and listen to callers all the time long.
Okay.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff to do right around that area.
That will be awesome.
Yep. It's in Suhl. The city is Suhl, S-U-H-L, Germany. When we get all the registration and the flyers and everything done, we'd be happy to come back and tell you all about it.
Okay, that will be fantastic. We got Callerlab coming up. I know I'll see y'all there. And of course the National Convention, but that's further down the road. I want to thank. Go ahead.
Just
go
before Callerlab.
Oh,
it's the
commercial.
Yeah, commercial chance. I'm the big chair, so
No, go ahead.
And we have a Women in Calling Institute for female callers only, for providing a secure surrounding for learning our craft. And I would be happy if I see many of our female colleagues in this school.
Okay.
And the staff is Deborah Carroll-Jones, Betsy Gada, Shauna Carrier, me, and
Patty?
I think Patty Green, yes.
Patty Green. Okay. Absolutely, we'll talk about that. I'd love to get plenty of people out for that. Female callers, women callers for you. That is outstanding. I appreciate everything y'all are doing, especially overseas, for, I guess, the easiest way to say it, being in Germany, and everything y'all have done for Callerlab. The first time, and I'm sure you don't remember meeting me, Julie. The first time I met you, you were doing pin a dollar on a caller at a Callerlab. So however many years, I mean, that was probably 5 years ago now, I'm guessing. And it might have been New Mexico. I don't know. But I just remember you, and I thought, what is that accent? Because you came up and said, and I didn't know who you were. And so then I realized it was German, and I was like, okay. So, man, it's been a pleasure talking to y'all. I appreciate everything you do with Callerlab and what you're doing with the callers in Germany in that area. I would love to come on and do this again. It has been my pleasure. Walt, Juli Burr. I will talk to y'all soon. Walt, we'll talk more about the Callerlab, Julie, with the women and callers. And, you know, don't be a stranger. And I look forward to seeing y'all at Callerlab coming up.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to see you.
All right, y'all have a good night. It's been a pleasure. And like I said, this will come out in about 2 weeks. So, and I'll let y'all know ahead of time. But man, it's been certainly a pleasure getting to talk to you, Julie. We've never got to talk before until tonight, Walt. We've talked a handful of times, and it has been my true pleasure. Y'all have a good night. Okay.
Thank you so much for asking us. We really enjoyed it. And
absolutely,
we will do it again.
Okay. I'll talk to y'all soon. Y'all have a good night.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.